Yeah, hopefully this doesn't like break anything. Yes, we got it all working. So no more technical issues for the rest of the night. Hopefully, we are a-okay with this one. As we go into the draft, you mentioned the first pick, Brewmaster, but I also want to point out really quickly the Razor and the Faceless Void getting first ban. Now, again, I constantly have to say this to myself that a month ago, this would have surprised me like heavily. Faceless Void getting banned out, Razor as well, and it's just because teams have had plenty of time to experiment and practice with these guys, and they have shown to be really, really strong. And I would not be surprised if we saw maybe one or two nerfs to hit these guys and try to bring them down a peg. And I really hold true that Brewmaster will see one or two nerfs, as I guess you could call them, as it is impossible to pretty much burst them down. You saw the infamous 1 HP primal split in the international. Stuff like that, just I feel like that's where he's going to be hit, is his ability to tank up until that primal split, even silenced or stunned.
Oh, God. He already, though, it takes so long to get the ability off. I just really wonder what you can do to tweak it. They think of so many innovative ways to balance, and that's one thing I think that has kept me so interested in this game for so long. It's the same map we've been playing for going on like 10 years now. Ever since Aeons, and then you move over into Dota, you get pretty much the same minor alterations throughout the years. Forgive me as I'm like stuttering like crazy
Don't worry
tonight,
about it. You just had coffee. I understand.
Yeah, right. I'm really jittery, so it's coming through. But
yeah.
You've had all of these balances, and they actually take other things like they peg up things like Drunken Haze rather than Drunken Brawler, and those are fixes you never imagined would happen in a million years. And you're like, okay, this makes sense. They'll concede, but never damage what a hero is good at. They'll concede certain powerful abilities, and that's what I think I like about the game so much. Tide getting banned out, as well as Silencer. Viper also on the chopping block with one more to go into this phase. Tinker of note still in the pool. And some heavy push heroes to follow up this Death Prophet as we look like we may have a little bit of Death Ball going. One hero I haven't gotten a chance to cast a lot that I really like to see play because it's dynamic. You already have the Shadow Shaman push, but Abaddon is a really awesome hero, and so is the Earthshaker now that the Tide is banned away.
Yeah, Abaddon and Omni Knight, I think, was EG's favorite running combo, just because there was so much sustain between those two heroes that it was nearly impossible to kill them. But the problem is now with the Ancient Apparition pickup that drafting an Abaddon is kind of like a problem. If you want to try to go against this Ancient Apparition, he does counter many of the heroes that use heals as a core of the hero. So I mean, the Ancient Apparition dissuades a lot of the sustain that I think Sneaky Nick's Assassins want to build. And to be perfectly honest, it is a great pickup for this lineup because now the Shadow Shaman Death Prophet have to push, but they're going to find that if they push a little bit too hard too fast, they're going to run out of HP really quickly.
Reserve time.
I think Darkseer was one of those heroes at the International that I didn't get a seat picked up enough, and I definitely agree with the HP push. But doesn't the actual AA debuff get pulled off if you get a shield thrown on, the Aphotic Shield? Or am I incorrect in that?
I think that's incorrect, mostly because BKB wouldn't remove it, so why would Aphotic Shield remove it? But I've been wrong about this kind of stuff before, and I won't make an absolute right now. But I don't think Aphotic Shield will remove the debuff of the Ice Blast. I don't think anything really removes that debuff. And it is like maybe you have Borrowed Time removing it. Borrowed Time purges that, or some mechanic that's really out in the left field. But the Mist Coils and the Aphotic Shields I do not think will help, other than maybe delay inevitables.
It was a curiosity's sake. It's the only reason I say it. I don't think it's super relevant here now that they have the melee of the Earthshaker. Death Prophet, for all intents and purposes, is front lines because of how tanky she is. So you're definitely correct in saying that. It was just theory crafting. I sometimes go off on tangents. But Sand King and Mirana are the two pickups right there. Going into the last band, Mirana has been seen as a 4-role as of late, not even necessarily an off lane, but she is one of those heroes that maintains such good relevance throughout her course and tenure, simply because she can play all 3 different lanes, and she can play them extremely effective either as a carry, mid solo, or even as the support because of how versatile that arrow is. And I love to see it in a lineup like this. Good follow-up to Earthshaker, or just maneuverability, great initiation
Dyer's
going to come
big.
from them. Death Prophet won't have to do much of anything to reveal herself with that ultimate up and Moonlight Shadow, so a lot of really tricky synergy moving in here. And who do you
Oh yeah.
expect the last picks to be? Because we need a carry
Well,
for Dust, but
yep.
SNA can go a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, SNA, they've run a draft that has been run before. I guarantee these four lines have been picked up. And the reason that is because it doesn't reveal much. I mean, you know they're going to be pushing. You
10
know they've got
seconds to
great
go.
rotation potential. But it's not exactly
5
set in
seconds.
stone who plays as a core role, who plays as a support role. I mean, all three, Shadow Shaman, Earthshaker, and
Reserve
Mirana,
time.
have played in that hardcore role, and all three have played in the support role, and all three can set up any of the other three. So it's really difficult to make that call, and I think Dust Gaming are going to be struggling with that for a little bit, but their draft is a little bit more, I wouldn't say obvious, but lead points to less direction, where they are going to be picking up a carry if they want to run a classically balanced draft. And Sneaky Six Assassins, they're going to go ahead and pick up the
Radiant's
Centaur
big.
War Runner. So that was the direction they wanted to go. They're going to have maybe the Mirana play as a chorus, and she will possibly become more of a carry than many other of the heroes on the draft. And the Centaur is going to play a solo lane with a Shadow Shaman and Earthshaker, rotating around the map, but I imagine they'll be hanging out with the Mirana very much often because, well, they set up incredibly well with each other and for that arrow. But the Centaur War Runner in and of himself is an
10
incredibly
seconds to
tanky
go.
hero, and even with the Ice Blast, will be able to sustain very
5
well
seconds.
throughout the damage that Dust Gaming has to throw at them. Whereas Dust Gaming, I wouldn't be
Reserve
surprised
time.
if they pick up a carry with a lot of AoE damage potential, and that's going with your Svens or even your Shadow Fiends, because we see that Darkseer pickup, and they're instead going to go a different direction. They're going to go for the Wraith King, which that's a difficult pickup because it doesn't give away what their landing is going to be. So now we've got
I
two
think he's got to be
drafts.
run as a core, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be run as a core. There's not much else room for him, but where he gets run is out in the left field. And speaking of the left field, that's where most of this draft today is going to be playing.
Places, everyone.
So I guess we have nothing more to do than to introduce the teams and go from there.
All right, for Dust Gaming on the Radiant squad, Mayit, is it Mott? Mayit on Sand King, 470 Darkseer, Loki on the Ancient Apparition, Heisenberg on the Wraith King, and Handball on the Brewmaster.
All right, switching it across the river, we've got Fluff and Stuff. Going to be picking up the Earthshaker. By the way, many of these names you will recognize. IX Mike will be on the Centaur War Runner, the famed offlaner of the old Liquid squad. Speaking of Liquid, we have TC going to be on the Death Prophet in the mid lane, #1 NEL player. Way Too Sexy will be playing the Shadow Shaman. And our only guy that I don't think has ever been on Liquid,
30
SNA,
seconds to showtime.
going to be on the Mirana.
What do you think of Way2's recent free agency? I'm curious to see where he goes and what exactly is going on with this North American scene. I know that everyone expected Na'Vi of all squads to disband, and it was actually Liquid who took the 2 biggest hits so far.
Yeah, I think Liquid had such a great squad, and I'll go back to the free agency in a second. I think Liquid's squad was incredible, and I'm surprised they actually lost a couple of guys because I really felt like they had plenty of room to grow. And I think Demon pointed out best in his interview where that everyone had great potential. Everyone maybe slunk down a little bit in the midst of TI4. They started strong but kind of fell back a little bit because they fell back into their comfort zones, but it was a really strong squad. So I think Way Too Sexy is going to be one of those players that is heavily sought after by some of the tier 2, maybe bottom tier 1 teams, just to say that, oh, we've got Way Too Sexy. We have plenty of room to grow from here.
I agree. Just North America has such a good set of
Yep.
aggro players, and I think two of the most exciting players to watch actually consist to me of none of what's here. I would say Sneaking and Korok were the definite great free agency pickups. I think that is why Narvi was so successful. Those guys are very hard to play with for a reason, and I think squads realize that. But when they tapped into the potential of what those guys could do, given the space to be as aggressive as they are it created such a phenomenal dynamic that was just so much fun to watch. And I think both teams were successful at the International for various reasons. I think it was a strong showing for North America.
It was.
Regardless.
Unfortunately, they weren't able to really secure anything of worth except for, EG, who I constantly refer to as the odd duckling of the scene. But we'll have to separate ourselves from that one, as I think we're going way into the game, and there's plenty more to talk about happening right here on the field right now. Taking a look at the top lane, it looks like the first action going to happen. 470 getting fissured in. The arrow connects as well as the shackle, and with the ether shock to draw itself in, way too sexy, we'll grab the first blood.
Really good, well-placed Fisher there by Fluff. Immediately, Darkseer returns to lane. I don't think it's going to be detrimental to his farm. All he's got to do is sustain, and there's not much, I think, actually, that Sama gets out of this lane unless they get a multiple array of kills. They have great setup for it, so I guess we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. But for the most part, this is going to be Dust's game to lose on their bottom lane, which, in fact, you don't have Mike really contesting. I don't think there's much he can do.
Funny story about Mike. He actually got into a man fight, 1v1 with an Ancient Apparition and a double damage rune. So he ended up forcing out a lot of his health for that one, opting not to use the regen. He's just going to passively regen that up. So that's why he's hanging back a bit, but it really opens up a lot of room for Dust, as you said. So he's having a little bit of trouble in that lane because of it. But looking at the mid lane, I mean, who do you think wins this lane? TC has been harassed out by the Thunderclap, but it looks like he's coming back into the game with the Crypt Swarms constantly flying out.
He bottled the regen rune, and I think Brewmaster, he's just going to be able to sustain, similar to what I suppose a Dragon Knight would do in the lane. His job is just to stay alive, get the experience so he can be relevant in the team fights later. That is where Brewmaster excels. Krob is, yeah, and I mean, as we have that, regen rune goes off, swarming out, actually looks like he's going to chase, but TC elects to back off, and intelligently so, as the tower comes bearing down on those physical creeps. One thing I do want to highlight is the use of this particular lane ward here on bottom. It provides such good depth and sight. It has to be one of the best wards, and was, in my opinion, the best ward of the International, even though you had another ward that was up here and blocked out this jungle space that you could not de-ward unless you had some sort of physical range that blocked a creep camp. And I know Fear talked about that at length prior to going into the International, but the reason why I want to focus on that is it creates a really hard time for anyone to rotate in that lane and make anything at all happen. And although it is relatively easy to counter, when you have a hero like IX Mike in that off lane who doesn't have the ability to be ranged, it becomes much harder. It provides insight as to not only rotations in, but your ability to zone him out, and therefore you see him standing well back at length. He has an idea that it's been done, and engagement going on middle. I'll let you take that one, as it looks like we might have a kill.
Well, it looks like we would have had a kill on either the hero or the courier, but TC, either he was having an overload of senses there, or, just didn't exactly want to go on to Handball. Handball had the bottle there. He was healing up, so one Crypt Swarm wouldn't have been enough. But top lane, 470 will take a stray arrow coming from SNA to pick up another kill here in the top lane. Meanwhile, Dust really hasn't been able to capitalize on the Centaur in the bottom lane. So I think that is a win here for Sneaky Nyx Assassins, as their tri-lane is ending up getting more kills. And the supports here on Dust's tri-lane are having to jungle up their golden XP, which isn't a problem for Sandking. You can see with the level 2 Sandstorm is doing just fine in that regard. But Ancient Apparition, one of the heroes that we talk about, comes so much online with the Ice Blast at level 6. He needs XP, and if he's not able to flash farm up the jungle stacks like Mate is here on the Sand King, then he's going to be running into a lot of trouble here as we approach the 10-minute mark. If he's still level 4 or 5, he's going to have a hard time finding himself useful in the game.
I agree. I think Sand King, though, is one of those heroes that can get so much out of the jungle so quickly. I've seen a lot of just unexpected farm coming out of them prior to even the 10-minute mark, picking up Blink Daggers and just creating such an impact. As long as he can, keep making an impact in there, I think he'll be fine. And it's steady as she goes. It's almost a level a minute at this point, being in 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Again, Handball getting kind of harassed out of this mid lane. TC doing such a phenomenal job of staying on top of it. Currently crowing the bottle right now. The tri-lane up top completely shutting down Darkseer now that he's down 2 deaths, and Darkseer forced to move over to the
Radiant's
jungle
top
and kind of
tower is
encroach
taking
upon some of
hits.
that farm that we were just talking about May getting. And
They're
now
gonna
they're
go
gonna have
mid,
to go
though.
on TC.
Oh.
Yeah, missed the burrow strike narrowly, and it was a good surge to move him forward,
Radiant's
but
top
just not
tower's
enough to
in
connect
bad
it.
shape.
Yeah, they might have been able to hold on to that a little bit longer, though. I mean, the surge wasn't going to end for a short amount of time, so he could have still tried to get that
Radiant's toughened up their
the
structures.
burrow strike off, but instead sent it a little bit
Radiant's top
early. I mean, he
tower
was
is
worried about
hurting.
getting too far out of range of handball, and they ended up giving up giving up the
Radiant's
potential to
top
get a kill
tower's
there.
in
Now,
bad shape.
it looks like 470 is going to make his way back towards top. He still has the ion shell on the creeps
The
here.
Radiant lost
But they're going to
top
lose that
tower.
tower, and it is 6.5 minutes in, not the fastest tower, but certainly doesn't help when you have this trialing already getting that extra surge of gold.
It's way too early to concede that tower. It really is. It's going to be so harmful. And even looking over at the gold graph, you already see a 1,500 lead as a spike. Each tower worth about 1K to the opposing squad when something like that happens. If they were to let that continue this early with someone like Shadow Shaman and Krob on the board, they're going to find themselves in a position that they might not be able to come back from. And we're going to need to see Handball here, now that he's level 6, going on level 7, rotate in soon and see what he can make happen, as it actually is. SNA doesn't have a lot of vision on the map to see what's coming. They do have this one obs about to expire. When that goes, if he can find an effective rune, we might be able to see some really cool things happen if Handball can manage to rotate himself into a favorable position.
Yeah, he got lucky with getting the regen rune back then a while ago. He ended up being able to survive through what he almost would have died through and be able to be a lane presence, but he's having trouble finding runes at any other point in time. I think he just got a little bit lucky with that one, having supports rotate in or something along those lines. But if he can get a rune, as you said, it would help. But now there are fresh wards coming out, spotting out most of his movement, save if he goes top. But they'll be able to see if he goes any other direction. So that cuts down a little bit on his potential, as you mentioned. But he's going to go straight in, hoping to get on TC. No Blink Dagger on this Brewmaster, so it's going to be trouble. But I'm going to take a quick look over to supports on to SNA. Way Too Sexy has his level 6 up and ready at the cost of Earthshaker level 2. But that's no problem, because now the Shadow Shaman can use his wards to push down towers. He's got an Invis rune, so he's going to have the shackles to set up maybe a potential Fisher into a kill, and it could be the handball here ending up falling if he's not careful.
Just such good positioning on these runes every single time. They knew that they had the vision and the speed to obtain the bottom rune sooner, so they moved over to top way too exactly where he needs to be. And I mean,
Could have
it's
trouble
gonna
on
be
the bottom
hard.
lane.
Yeah,
We have an
professional.
aggressive rotation actually out from the Way Too Sexy Invis up. That's going to run out in a couple of seconds. If he can't find a kill before that runs out, he could be caught in really hot water. It looks like they're going to make a go onto Loki, though. They want to go for the shackles, but didn't end up doing it. It looked like he had the cast ready, but didn't want to go for it. Now the immediate rotation from 470 forces them to back off a little bit.
I think they have to. If they get themselves in a disfavorable fight, it's trouble. And 470 going on top. Wraith King stunned. Follow up there from AA, trying to slow Mike down. Mike dropping to only about half with the Mirana ultimate just to secure the fact that he gets out. I think he gets out anyways, but Sentry nonetheless placed and will reach the extent of the tower just to see if he decides to come back in, and actually will rotate back in. But now that he is healing himself to full with the salve that he had left over from the laning phase because they were not able to catch him. He heals up, stays in lane, and looking over at last hits, I don't think that, you know, Handball on Panda is doing too bad on this mid lane. He's been pushed out quite a few times, but he's 36 for 8. The Wraith King's farming just as effectively as Mirana, and I think both kind of null each other out. Krob is going to be the difference maker as some aggression comes down on mid tower. Serpent wards up and tower under siege.
Yeah, the ward is being dropped in the tier 1 tower. There is very little they can do about this, but they're going to pop the Primal Split anyway. They want to go for it. They're putting the Windwalk onto the Storm Brewling, and now they're going to go on TC. They drop down the stone onto him. They also get the Burrow Strike, but the Shackle comes out. May is trapped. He gets caught by the Crypt Swarm. Will go down. The Primal Split ending very soon, but it would be enough. Actually, he does end up staying alive. That almost was able to kill him. He gets through the Fissure, going away just now, but it won't be enough as the Ether Shock and the Crypt Swarm will bring him down. And 4-0, Doves Gaming, I mean, you mentioned how they're not out of this game. They're actually doing okay, trading evenly on a lot of the farm and XP going across the map. But with engagements like that, you have to wonder if they actually have the tools in their arsenal to be able to deal with this death ball that SNA is building up slowly and slowly. Now they're going to rotate into the bottom lane, and we'll see if they can defend against this. The wards are down. Stampede is down. but there's plenty left to go around. And Earthshaker, level 5, almost level 6, will have his Echo Slam up in due time, and that'll be a little bit scary for Dust, as they are pulling ahead rather fast now.
It's confusing to me why Way 2 wouldn't go one level into Hex. I think it's such a useful resource of a spell, and that you don't necessarily need to go all into Ether. I understand their main objective here is to push down towers as quickly and efficiently as possible, but even so, Hex is one of the longest range setups that Shadow Shaman has to offer, and it would allow, you know, Stampede to catch up brilliantly, but apparently he disagrees, and that's fine.
Well, I mean, if you look at the stats behind it, the Ether Shock allowed him to jungle up really fast, which got his levels really quickly, and the Shackles is a 3.5-second lockdown, whereas the first point in Hex, yeah, it's instant, but does he really need that, as it is only about a little over than a second?
I'm debating the 4th level of Ether versus 1 level into Hex. I mean, it's 60 damage. I get that it's 60 damage split amongst and can be, you know, even better than 180. You're looking to tag about 3 things at a time. I'm just indifferent, but it's fine. It's working for them. They're 4-0.
Yeah. If it's working, then don't. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Just stop talking, Ever. Good Fisher block, actually, from Fluff as they initiate on Roshan. And TC able to just use the ultimate here, burn down Roche, coming down with no ability to contest from the Dust Squad. And even if the Dust Squad does engage, the fact I wanted to touch on, like you were saying, is what do they do against this Death Ball? They kind of have to land a solid Epicenter, which has just come online for the Sand King. Smoke up from SNA as they move down into the opposing jungle. They will find Handball here in just a matter of moments. He's got Primal Split. Will he be able to get it off? Fisher actually blocks SNA from getting on top of it. Good Thunderclap. He's looking to good Silence Fall up there from Krob. Handball in trouble. Not able to get it off as that shot comes through, and now it looks like
Epicenter, mate. He's coming in with a full Epicenter. Catches 3. They get the Echo Slam out, but it's not going to be enough damage. Now the Ion Shell will end up bringing down Fluff and Stuff. The reincarnation from IX Mike with the Aegis, they end up going back on to Heisenberg. Now he's dropping really low. He will go down to the double edge. That was the greatest Epicenter I think they could have gotten off, and it only gives them a 3-for-1 trade.
Only because of the Aegis. I mean, it was so well positioned, but I was going to say, just moments before that, they have to land the Epicenter, they have to land the AA Blast. They don't yet have the AA Blast, and it didn't allow them to take down more heroes, but Dust putting up a valiant effort. They are buried now a little bit by about 5,000 gold just 13 minutes into this game, really needing to get back on top of things as Centaur Warrunner IX Mike picks up Blink Dagger, his initiation becoming that much more potent.
Yeah, but Blink Dagger was completed onto Mate, which made that whole thing possible. But we take a look back onto the Ancient Apparition. We talked about this in the beginning of the game, where he needed to get his level 6 up, and the Sand King would have no trouble farming that, but he was going to have trouble. Now it's 13, 14 minutes, and he finally has his Ice Blast. He's going to make his first target the bottom lane. As they go on to Heisenberg, he's going to get cleaned up. The Ice Blast off the mark actually will catch the 3, surprisingly enough. But the fact still stands that, I mean, it's not enough to really make any go. Handball will get thrown up in the air via the Yule Scepter. And TC will try to push down this tower with his Exorcism. Plenty of to grab this tower if there is no counter initiation. Mate wants to make a go. He will have to Burrow Strike to keep himself alive, and he's going to back off. Tower will drop.
Such an early Yule Scepter. It's going to be hard to handle that, and Panda not getting off the ult. Does the fight go differently if Handball actually gets that ult off? And maybe they kill 1 or 2 more, but I think effectively they still lose that engagement. And unfortunately for them, Dust is just behind on the draft, and I'm not sure how they could have played this any different. They needed to farm up the Wraith King, but maybe their thought process was, well, our cores go in and they just kind of don't die. We have a Darkseer to back things up and
way too sexy bottom lane. He'll take a Burrow Strike and a doo-doo-doo there. Sandstorm won't end up dropping. Maybe this Ice Blast will change that. It'll end up picking up Fluff and Stuff, actually. He will tick down because of that one. Mate's going to go ahead and get silenced, but he's going to be able to blink himself to safety, evading that double edge. Fluff and Stuff, he won't end up ticking out. He had sub 100 HP, but didn't cross that 91 damage threshold, I think. Actually, I think it's 9% at level 1, so Hold on, double edge going to go on to 470. The stomp was there as well. Burrow Strike comes in, but not enough. A little bit too late. Now they're going to be able to pick up Way Too Sexy. Heisenberg stays alive. They will get the primal split off this time. Yule Scepter goes up onto TC, but heat isn't long for this world. Can they get a couple stuns off? The silence will not affect the Brewlings there. He dropping low, but not fast enough. Now Handball is going to have to get himself out of there. The Fisher will stun him, but won't block him. Now another Ice Blast flies out. It does catch on TC. Can they do anything with this? Burrow Strike on to SNA. Handball will go ahead with the Thunderclap, but it will end up getting the death of him as he does get Crypt Swarmed up. SNA will be able to stay alive through all the carnage, and Mate will take a fall there. SNA will take an 11-3 lead, 16 minutes in.
You know, Mate is just playing out of his mind. Every time in these engagements, he's giving them the opportunity to make something happen. He's stunning the right targets. His epicenters are point on. He was able to blink away in the middle of a silence, just really calm and composed. But even if Dust loses this game, I think it's just a showing of how effective supports can be, such as Sand King, and just awesome play out of him, regardless of them being able to lose a fight. And the only reason I think they lose that fight is because they're buried underneath such a gold disadvantage. Now 7,500 after that specific exchange, and not able to do much. Even if Wraith King were to accomplish something like Blink, which he went Midas, I think that slows his progression down tremendously, and he's not going to have the damage output required to down someone like Krob as they go on bottom tower. Wards up. AA Blast.
They're going to go for this one. They pop the Epicenter, but the Epicenter won't end up catching out the Krob. She will go ahead with the Yules. Burrow Strike didn't miss there. Now they're going to have to back themselves off. They lose their tower. The wards are still there. And SNA take a victory there, very much so. Epicenter's on cooldown. The Ice Blast is on cooldown. I think the one thing that SNA are a little bit scared of, and I would be too, is the fact that 470 hasn't revealed the Wall of Replica yet. He hasn't leveled it up, and that is a spell. Darkseer is a hero with a spell that scales so much with how well the enemy team is doing right now.
Just snuffed out mid lane, yeah. Just able to get Fluff right on top. Good Fisher and follow-up from Mike there. Just well out of position, and no business being there, unfortunately, for Loki. He's only 0-2. It's
top lane, he misses a Burrow Strike onto SNA and could end up dying for it. Now, they will pop a vacuum to try to pull SNA back into the Sandstorm, but it won't be enough. Now we've got support coming in. Fluff and Stuff will drop. A Fisher stunning on 3. Won't be enough to secure a kill. Will it be enough? Way Too Sexy looking for the Ether Shock. Did not get it off, but, I mean, they are still looking. Dust is still looking for the perfect Wombo combo here, and I wouldn't put it past him to really have hope for that one. I mean, a Wall of Replica Vacuum is a really strong combo in and of itself, but now you've got the Epicenter and the Ice Blast to go on top of it, as well as a Thunderclap and possible Brewlings going around causing mayhem. If they can get all of that off, SNA may lose a fight, may get 5-man wiped. However, that is going to require perfect execution for Dust.
They're going to have to snuff TC out. I think at the end of the day, like, TC has to go down without an Aegis. If they allow them to get another Roshan, it might effectively just be lights out 20 minutes in. And even if they land everything perfect, TC is going to be putting out so much damage. So if they can effectively, snuff him out, I will agree to that. And it looks like we got a setup going right now. Ward's on the tower, Mate in a perfect position to land Epicenter.
He doesn't have it. It's on cooldown.
Right on top is SNA. SNA looks like he's about to go down. TC looking for Mate. Mate about to get things ready to go as the Ghost actually hit him. Slow things down. Now 3 going down. Epicenter on 2. Melting away as Dust. Tower goes down, and they're not going to be able to even engage this one as Sand King is stuck.
They tap
and GG
out.
is already called.
Yep, this is a case of just, I know. They didn't have the Epicenter online, and SNA played that perfectly. They were aggressive when they needed to be aggressive. They forced out the fight, and, I mean, there was just no answer from Dust. If they could have waited maybe 1 or 2 minutes, if Sneaking Nick Assassins had waited maybe 1 or 2 minutes for the Darkseer to level up, get his Wall of Replica, and for the Epicenter to come back off cooldown, that might have been different. But